Jenny Morrison's heart pounded. Her husband, Mark, was asleep. This was her only chance. She carefully pulled out a piece of paper. Her hand shook as she scribbled a message. "Help us. He'll hurt us. 23 Oak Street." She folded the paper tightly. Her daughter, Claire, slept soundly nearby. Claire was only 8. She had always been a bright and cheerful child, but lately she had become withdrawn at school. Her teacher, Mrs. Singh, noticed the change. Claire was often quiet. She had dark circles under her eyes. Jenny knew why. She wished she could protect Claire from everything. But Mark's temper was getting worse. He drank more. The yelling was constant. Jenny feared for their lives. She had to do something. Anything. She slipped the note into Claire's sock. It was a long shot, but it was all she had. Jenny kissed Claire's forehead. "Tomorrow," she whispered, clinging to a sliver of hope. The school day was ending. Mrs. Singh smiled at her students. "Time to pack up," she announced. Claire was slow to move. Her shoulders slumped. Mrs. Singh watched as Claire gathered her things. She noticed something fall out of Claire's bag. It was a small, crumpled piece of paper. Mrs. Singh bent down to pick it up. "Is this yours, Claire?" she asked gently. Claire just stared at her feet. Mrs. Singh unfolded the note. Her blood ran cold. It was written in hurried handwriting. "Help us. He'll hurt us. 23 Oak Street." Mrs. Singh's mind raced. She knew something was wrong. Very wrong. She looked at Claire. The little girl's face was pale. Her eyes were filled with a fear that no child should ever have to know. Mrs. Singh took a deep breath. She knew she had to act fast. "Claire, honey," she said softly, "why don't you come with me to the principal's office? We have a little surprise for you there." Claire hesitated but followed her teacher. Mrs. Singh immediately went to the principal, Mr. Thompson. She showed him the note. His face turned grim. "We need to call the police," he said without hesitation. Within minutes, the police arrived. Mrs. Singh explained everything. She told them about Claire's recent behavior. She showed them the note. The officers listened intently. They knew time was of the essence. They assured Mrs. Singh that they would handle the situation with the utmost care. They promised to do everything they could to help Claire and her mother. Section 4. A Rescue Mission. The police arrived at 23 Oak Street. The house was quiet. Too quiet. They knocked on the door. No answer. They tried the handle. It was unlocked. The officers entered cautiously. The house was dark and smelled of stale beer. They could hear muffled sobs coming from upstairs. They followed the sound to a bedroom. There they found Jenny and Claire. They were huddled together on the floor. Mark was passed out on the bed. He reeked of alcohol. Jenny was bruised and battered, but she was alive, and she was holding Claire tightly. The police officers immediately took Mark into custody. They called for an ambulance for Jenny and Claire. Section 5. A New Beginning. Jenny and Claire were taken to the hospital. They were safe now. Finally safe. Mrs. Singh rushed to the hospital as soon as she could. She hugged Jenny and Claire tightly. She was so relieved they were okay. The community rallied around them. They provided clothes, food, and emotional support. Jenny and Claire began therapy. It was a long and difficult road to recovery, but they had each other, and they had the unwavering support of Mrs. Singh and their community. Claire slowly started to heal. She began to smile again. She went back to school. She was no longer afraid. She knew she was safe. She knew she was loved. The note in her sock had saved their lives. It had given them a second chance, a chance for a new beginning, a chance for a brighter future.